cheetah, an iconic species, well known as the fastest mammal on Earth, with territories covering vast areas. But in South Africa, all the large wildlife has to be kept behind fences and game reserves. For their own protection, the cheetahs here can no longer roam free. But the very fences intended to protect them have created another threat. Unable to roam, the cheetahs here face a genetic disaster, unless a dedicated team of cheetah conservationists can intervene and give these iconic cats a future. Leading the cheetah team from the Endangered Wildlife Trust is Vincent van der Merwe. He knows just how desperate the situation is.
So the major issue for cheetahs, of course, is habitat loss. I mean, we've eradicated cheetah from 90% of their historical range in South Africa. The human population has boomed and the habitat has become fragmented.
Although protecting them from human persecution and increasing habitat loss, the reserve fences effectively hold the cheetahs captive, so that they are no longer able to move away from their families to find a mate. Inbreeding leading to genetic weakness has become their biggest threat. The future of the South African cheetah now lies in the hands of Vincent and his team. Over the last 5 years, Vincent has been coordinating an ambitious cheetah relocation programme involving 55 reserves in South Africa to help combat this problem that the cheetahs face.
A metapopulation is a series of fragmented populations which will normally share individuals through natural gene flow. But our metapopulation is a managed metapopulation. It's no longer possible for the cheetah to move from one reserve to another because they're fenced. So we have a managed metapopulation whereby we artificially move individuals between the populations to simulate natural gene flow.
Vincent is on his way to Sombona Reserve in the Western Cape, where his next client is an 18-month-old female cheetah. She is approaching sexual maturity, but unless she is moved, her limited options for a mate are exactly what the team are trying to prevent.
This female that we're moving has to be relocated because the only males available to mate with are one, her brother, or her father, or her uncle. So it's absolutely necessary that we relocate this female because otherwise there is going to be inbreeding on Sombona.
But moving a cheetah is easier said than done. They're incredibly sensitive to drugs, which makes relocation much more challenging. Helping to ensure she has the best possible chance of surviving the ordeal is experienced vet Johan Joubert. And with each individual reacting differently, it's critical he gets the doses right.
But what we've realized is that cheetah are very flimsy compared to the other large predators. We've lost 23 of the 104 cheetah that we've relocated due to heat exhaustion. Some of them die just from the sheer stress of their experience.
This female has been confined to a small enclosure along with her brother and sister for several weeks now. This helps habituate them to the veterinary team, creating less stress when it comes to darting. For the sedative to work effectively, it must hit just the right part of the body. It's a tense moment. Right on target. The sedative will take a few minutes to completely immobilize her, so Vincent and Johan prepare their next move.
It's what we're going to do with the male and the swapping and that kind of thing.
Vincent has a list of criteria he looks for when choosing cats for relocation. This female is being moved to Madikwe Reserve, a place notorious for its high levels of large predators. Cheetahs are fast, but a lion will kill them if they get the opportunity as their competition. Vincent chose this female for one important reason. When it comes to lions, she has a history.
This cat in particular saw her own mother being killed by lions. So she's very predator savvy, and the cheetah need to have been exposed to the other large predators. Otherwise, they simply don't fear them, and they are attacked and killed by these predators.
With the cheetah now fully sedated, the team has 30 minutes to fit her with a tracking collar, so Vincent can follow up on her progress at Madikwe. They also need to gather crucial information about her DNA, so blood and other samples are also taken. Ultimately, these will help Vincent to compile a DNA database of South African cheetahs, so he can check who's related to whom. Then she is weighed. 33 kilograms is small for her age, but she's otherwise healthy, and her fear of lions means Vincent has high hopes for her survival. Finally, they insert a microchip under her skin and she is given a unique ID number.
4700, so we can always keep a record of this cheetah. If she's found dead in the bush, we know which one it is.
With all her health checks and samples finished, it's time to get her on the road. But before they leave, she needs to be woken up. Due to Cheetah's super sensitivity to drugs, Johan gives her a reversal and she comes round, crated and ready to travel.
Quite slow because he's intramuscular.
She's waking up, guys.
It's just Vincent and the cheetah who'll take the 19-hour journey to Madikwe Reserve, 900 miles north on the Botswanan border. For Vincent, it's a race against time. It's one of the longest relocations he has ever done, and with the cheetah awake in the back, there is a real risk that something could go wrong on the journey.
So whilst we're moving her, she's very stressed, and right now there's a build-up of lactic acid in her body from this chronic stress. So it's a riskier move than normal, and we're obviously quite concerned that we may lose her in the process.
With relocations presenting such a risk to the cheetahs involved, are such journeys worth the risk? Even in natural conditions, a young wild cheetah faces enormous odds. So Vincent believes that the risks of relocation are worth it compared to the devastating long-term effects of inbreeding.
If you have 3 or 4 generations of inbreeding, you're looking at lower litter sizes, smaller body sizes, increased susceptibility to diseases, congenital heart disorders. There's a whole myriad of issues that are associated with inbreeding.
Although he can't stop for long, Vincent has to check on the cheetah on a regular basis to ensure she is okay and that the drugs haven't had any delayed effects.
And she seems to be doing quite well. Wide awake, you can hear her purring.
But it's actually the unpredictable South African weather that threatens to jeopardize Vincent and the cheetah's progress.
So we've just been through a pretty heavy hailstorm. It was only about 5 minutes, but definitely enough to get that cheetah wet. And sometimes we've lost cheetah because of pneumonia. Not tonight, not immediately, but they develop pneumonia and you lose them in about 2 or 3 weeks. Hopefully she'll be all right.
Although shaken by the storm, Vincent and the cheetah continue onwards. And finally, after a lot of coffee and snacks, and over 100 litres of fuel, they are approaching their destination. 20 hours later, and at last the cheetah has arrived at her new home. But it's not over for her yet. Released initially into a small enclosure, she will need to establish herself in this unfamiliar environment. And then, the moment of truth. Cautious at first, she soon starts to explore. She may have made it to the reserve, but the real test of her ability to survive is still to come. Vincent will track her progress in the future, but for now it's just a huge relief to have got her this far.
So finally we've got Another female here onto Madikwe. We've got very high hopes for her. We're hoping that she's going to be the one female that will pull through on Madikwe, because we've attempted cheetah reintroduction on 6 separate occasions and all have failed.
A month later, the gate is opened, and camera trap footage captures the female venturing timidly out into the main reserve. Now, only time will tell whether she is hard enough to overcome the new challenges that face her. Despite cheetahs no longer being able to fully roam free as they can in other countries, South Africa is now the only place where cheetah numbers are increasing. But in these fragmented populations, Vincent's role in moving cheetahs between reserves is vital in order to expand the gene pool and aid the survival of the overall species in the future.